Hey guys, this is Ryan Key from Yellow Card, and you're listening to The New Scene.
Hello everybody, and welcome to The New Scene. I am your host, Keith, and we are back with the 300th episode of The New Scene. 300 episodes. You know, I never would have imagined that 5 years ago when Tommy and I recorded the first 4 episodes of this show, that I'd be here 5 years later celebrating 300 episodes with you. It's pretty crazy. We've come a long way. We've had a lot of great conversations, and we'll be having a lot more. Speaking of, to celebrate this, our 300th episode, we have the return of Ken Vasoli of The Starting Line and Vacationer. The Starting Line just released an excellent new LP. It's called Eternal Youth. That's their first new record in 18 years. So we talk all about The Starting Line, the making of Eternal Youth, what Ken has been up to for the past 5 years, marriage. He's going to have a kid soon. We also discuss Ken's band Vacationer and their most recent LP, Cherish, which was recorded in memorial of Ken's mother who recently passed. It's a great conversation. You're not going to want to miss this, and that's coming up shortly. But first, here's how you can support The New Scene. Rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a main channel with full video episodes and a clips channel with clips from select episodes. We have shirts for sale at our store at Deathwish Inc. Pick one up. It's a great way to support the show. And you can follow us on social media at New Scene Pod. And even if you don't listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, you can still rate the show. Everyone who has an iPhone has the Apple Podcast app. So just open up the podcast app, search The New Scene, scroll down a bit, and hit that 5-star button. We haven't gotten a lot of Apple Podcast reviews lately. So if like 50 of you just did this right now, it would make a huge difference for us. Also, leave comments on Spotify. You can do comment threads under the episodes on Spotify now. It's a great place to leave feedback for the show and your thoughts, and I like to read those on the show, so leave comments. Also, don't forget to support Iodine Recordings. There's a lot of great releases out from Iodine Recordings right now. Pick up Stretch Armstrong's Free at Last. That's the 20th anniversary reissue. This is on vinyl for the first time ever. Pick up Feel the Teeth from the Casket Lottery. It's a must-listen LP and one of my favorites of the year. Pick up Life on the Moon by Modern Life is War. That's the highly anticipated new LP from Modern Life is War. Pick up Life in Parallel from Hundreds of AU. That's another one of my favorite records of the year. And if you're into that classic screamo post-hardcore sound, you're going to love it. I just listened to it again this past weekend. Sign up for the newsletter. You'll find out about everything first. And you can follow the label on Instagram at Iodine Recordings. And say hello to our sponsor for the month of September, Persistent Vision Records. Persistent Vision Records is an independent label based in Richmond, Virginia, and it's home to a ton of great bands like Page 99, Pygmy Lush, Kowloon Walled City, Rain, Blind Girls, and Farn. You can order online at persistentvisionrecords.com and deathwishinc.com. And here's some updates from the label. The second pressing of Insania by Abak is up for sale now. The 2015 debut LP by Abak has been remastered with new artwork and a bonus live track. Out of print for the past several years, Persistent Vision is proud to present the reissue of Kowloon Walled City's debut release, Turk Street. Originally released in 2008, the 12-inch repress comes packaged in a full-color jacket with matte finish and is available on 2 color variants, each limited to 250 copies. Pre-order your copy today from Persistent Vision, Deathwish Inc., or Bandcamp. Forme Somers, the brand new album from Italy's Rain, is now streaming on Bandcamp. Vinyl is now available for pre-order from Persistent Vision and will be released October 24th, 2025. The LP comes packaged in a matte gatefold jacket with a printed inner sleeve and 3 limited vinyl variants. And Masa Nera have announced their third LP, The Emptiness of All Things. You can listen to the first single, Mechanical Sunrise, over at brooklynvegan.com. For more information, head to persistentvisionrecords.com and you can follow the label on Instagram at Persistent Vision Records. Okay, so check back in with me in segment 3. We'll do a wrap up of the conversation with Ken. I'll tell you why I selected this conversation for episode 300. We'll talk about some podcast history. We'll cover everything. But right now, we are going to speak to Ken Vasoli of The Starting Line. Enjoy. All right. We are here now with Kenny Vasoli. Kenny, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me back.
Yes, it's great to have you back. I think it's been 5 years since you've been here, which is crazy. A lot has happened, more than we can even comprehend. And we'll talk about most of that, I'm sure. But Kenny, first I want to ask you, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's been a great day. What have we been up to? We had Popeyes today. It's like we do it like once a month. That's our like bad boy food, the bad boy girl food in the house. And my wife is, 7 months along with pregnancy right now, having our first kid.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Yeah. She doesn't typically have like cravings like that. She usually just wants fruit and stuff. The Popeyes is more for me.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this today, which is weird. I used to eat a lot of Popeyes, but I don't really like it that much. They undercook the chicken breasts and the thighs aren't great. If I could order all wings, I might do that, but I'm still a KFC guy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's been a while since I've been to KFC. I find that not all Popeyes are created equal. We have ourselves a good one in town, so I got to
Nice.
give it up for the staff over there.
Where do you live these days?
I live in like the Willow Grove area of the Philadelphia greater suburb area. If people know the Turnpike, the Willow Grove, I'm a stone's throw from there.
Have you always lived around there, like in the general Bucks, Philadelphia area?
Yes, very much so. I still live in the same school district that I grew up in. So I'm a big time homer.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I come back, my parents live in Bucks County. They live in Levittown.
I remember that, yeah.
When I come back, I like to build in some time to just visit old places, and it's crazy because a lot of things have changed and a lot of things haven't changed. But I like to just visit old locations, old houses, that type of thing, and just see what kind of feelings come out.
That's great. What are your spots? What are your old haunts that you like to go see?
Well, here's one. The first house we lived in that I can remember is this house in Pendel. So it's off of 513, I think it is, like near where Big Marty's Carpet, the store is. So, but the house is gone. They raised it and it's like a lawyer's office now, but I'll just like go park there and I can still see some things that used to be there, and it's a real trip. But also Oxford Valley Mall, a couple friends' houses, a couple places in Bristol. It's a nice, I like sightseeing there.
Yeah, for sure. It feels good to see familiar places.
Definitely. Wait, so your wife is 7 months pregnant?
Yes, we're due in November 14th.
Wow. That, are you ready for that? How do you feel?
As ready as I'll ever be. I've never fathered a child before, so this will be a brand new experience, but doesn't seem to be a lot of nervous energy coming off of us in the approaching time coming up to it. It seems to just be a lot of excitement. We're doing a lot of comparing notes with our friends who have had kids in the last couple of years and just trying to gather all the pertinent information that we can.
Nice. How far down the rabbit hole do you go? Do you like dig into stuff online and you're like, wait, we can't feed them this, we can't do that? Like, how deep does it go?
No, any questions that pop up like that, I usually ask the doctor, because online, I think, is just a little bit too much information. I do find that, my wife is digging more into the pregnancy Reddits and stuff like that. So it's, all the questions that are going to be the biggies are going to come from her, because I think it's what's going on in her body that are prompting a lot of it. So, and then, wanting to avoid jacuzzis and sushi and stuff like that, trying to figure out if those theories hold water, which are, jacuzzis you're not supposed to, but our doctor doesn't seem to think that the sushi is one to worry about. But yeah, it's been a lot of, our doctor's been very chill about it. We went to a birthing center first where it wasn't any doctors. It was all nurse practitioners. And we had a really bad experience with that. And it's made it seem like a very complicated nerve-wracking thing going into it. And then as soon as we went to this other doctor, all our worries were really calmed, and they were really wonderful about just making it simple, just being like, pregnancy is complicated enough without you having to worry about it. Really, we're just going to take things step by step. You're going to come in for this appointment, and then we're going to check this out. And then you come in for this appointment. We check this out. If you have any questions, you call me. And that's it. Like, he was so to the point about it. And it really made us feel a lot better about this whole thing.
That's good. That's good. What's the deal with the nurse practitioners? Is there like a lot of hokey natural advice or something? Or that all natural advice is bad, but some of it probably can be.
It seemed really idealistic. It was no doctors, all nurse practitioners, and it seemed to be all holistic. No, none of the what do you call it? I'm going to learn all of these terms very soon, all too well. But, like the big anesthesia that they give, like they don't have any of that at the birthing center. And it's very close to the hospital, but they say like, I think 50 to 75% of the births actually happen at the center. And then 25% of the time they have to end up going to the hospital because of whatever complications or what have you. And so it seemed like, okay, already there's like a quarter chance that we're going to be going to the hospital no matter what. And then when we were going there, it seemed really great. It seemed like all natural. People have been having babies since way before doctors, and they're going to continue having babies into the future. So their whole philosophy was just, we just keep you calm. We don't worry about the pain management as far as medication goes. It's more just like dancing around, and like, They were like, a Wawa is really close by, so we bring in Wawa. And right away I was like, seems like, I don't know, it seems great, but also it seems like if you have something happen that you need a doctor, it'd be good to have one close by. And also when we were there, they were trying to take my wife's blood, and they like popped the butterfly thing, and then blood just started spurting everywhere, all onto the pamphlets they gave her and stuff. And then they sent her upstairs to get labs done from another woman. And then she was dropping the vial and stuff. And then afterwards put us in like a waiting room and like forgot about us for 50 minutes. Like when my wife was starving too. So they didn't get a lot of great points with us, and really set us up for when we did go to the doctor. We were like, this feels great.
What is going on over there? And what is with the bringing in Wawa? Is that like a selling point, or?
I think, the epidural, that's what I was trying to think of. I think since they don't have an epidural, they're like, we have, footlongs that we can get, it's like, because that was like their selling point. It's like, they don't let you bring in food to the hospital, but here, all the subs you want. Right. And not to knock them, I'm sure they do wonderful work over there. Even the woman that had the blood spurting everywhere admitted she was having an off day, which happens. I've had them, but it wasn't a fit for us, as it turns out.
Wow, a lot is going on. How did you meet your wife?
We met at South by Southwest in 2013, I believe.
Oh, nice. So you've been together that long?
Yes, we were, off to a slow incline at first, and for dating for like a year and a half, 2 years, and then started dating. And then she moved to Philly and has been here longer than she's been in Austin. So she's one of us now.
Do you live together?
Oh, yeah.
How long have you lived together?
We've lived together, I want to say 8 years or so.
So it must be working out, right? How is it?
Yeah, it's wonderful. We were planning to have children, but as soon as we stopped all precautions, it just happened right away. So we feel really blessed. It just has been accelerated. And yeah, we've been married for 2 years now. We're best friends. It's the good stuff.
Nice. I'm curious about the dynamics because I'm in a new relationship for the first time in a long time. So I like to see how other people are doing.
Yeah. Congratulations. Yeah. It's wonderful. There's, I remember Matt Watts from the band was asking me right before we got married, because I was a long time bachelor that was saying that I couldn't picture myself getting married, and also that I couldn't picture myself having kids. I never really felt like a fatherly figure leading up to the time before I turned 40. And Matt Watts was talking to me before I married Lena, and he asked me, how I knew that I was ready to get married. And I just put it that I can't picture my life without her. I couldn't at the time. I still can't. And it's just a sense of belonging together, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. What was it that made you not want to be married or have a kid potentially? Like for me, I said, I don't even know if I can be in a relationship. I definitely can't get married. I definitely can't have a kid. But that's because I was a mess. Like I was a drunk. I was getting high all the time. My life was completely unmanageable. So then once I hit 35 going into 40, I would say around 40, things started to change. I was like, I could be in a relationship. Sure. I could have a kid. I don't know. Like, how about for you?
Yeah, I'd say that it's probably a similar story for me in the sense that I was a late bloomer with maturity in general. It's just been a gradual trip to maturity for me. It was always just low responsibility lifestyle. I'd been touring since I was about 15 years old, give or take. So I'd been used to this lifestyle of just picking up and living my life from place to place and then coming home and then having a sense of kind of detachment from home for a long time. And so the stability of having a relationship wasn't something that I was used to for a long time. And then even when I did, a lot of them were long distance. And then the one that was a long term ended up not working out. So I think that gave me cold feet for another, who knows, better part of a decade. And then, I think it just takes meeting the right person and then seeing how your life can fit into another person's life seamlessly and no one's in any sort of discomfort and everyone, and also when the love seems to keep growing, it's a fantastic thing to have with a human being that I've never really experienced before. There's always been like a constriction feeling in a lot of the relationships that I've had prior to this one. And this is the first one where I feel like I can actually fully be myself around her. And there's no putting on a character that I'm not, or trying to like perform some other person that's other than myself. I can always just be myself and never have to be ashamed of it.
Isn't that the best? Yeah, like in previous relationships, I feel like the person didn't respect what I did or didn't want me to do it or was just upset with things I'm interested in. Not this time. I can just be the full nerd that I am and just do whatever, and she's into it. We have a lot of the same interests. It's very free.
That's great. And I think that's an important part too, is sharing interests and having commonalities where you can spend time together.
Big time. I see you have a nice music room there. Do you have a full setup? Do you do a lot of demoing and writing there?
I do. We did I'd say most to all of the blueprinting for the new record in this little space. And it comes in handy. Yeah, it's got everything that I need. It's borderline studio music room. I have made records up here before, and I just try to kind of keep everything like in a circle so that I can just sort of swivel to any little piece of gear that I need.
So you said you were blueprinting most of the new record up there. Was that the new Starting Line record?
Yes, sir. Correct.
How do you blueprint it? Is there room for a full band up there? I mean, do you guys just piecemeal work on stuff? How does it work?
There's room for a full band, a person at a time, or two people at a time, maybe max. But it's not the type of thing where we can set up and play live. But a lot of this stuff, we, in the demo phase, would map out the drums in just MIDI programs. And I do have some triggers over here so that Tom could come over and actually give a real human feel. And even the triggered demos were still his playing. So that's cool. Anything that I can do to make it feel more alive while still, cheating things without having a full studio. I try to do it. No, besides auto-tune, I don't fuck with that.
And you've got to be a whiz in Ableton by now, right?
I'm getting pretty good. Yeah. I feel like it's sort of like an instrument where if I take months away from it, then all of a sudden, even recording the simplest thing sounds really bad all of a sudden. And I need to keep my chops sharp with it. But the more that I dedicate a few hours a day to it, then I'm pretty comfortable with it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I made some progress. I have Ableton. I started to watch tutorial videos to see how to like open a session and tab between the two views. And then I got derailed because I accidentally started a band and got signed and recorded an EP, and now we're busy playing shows. So I don't have time to mess around on the computer so much, but I'm going to get there one of these days.
Oh, for sure. Well, I demoed all the starting line demos in Ableton. And yeah, it's not just for electronic music. If you want to make some rock music, it's all the stuff.
Yeah. When did things change with the starting line? Well, there was the initial hiatus, and we know that you guys would come back to do the holiday shows and play different sets of shows. But when did we start talking about like, hey, let's write something new? How does that happen?
So when was it? Maybe 2 years ago, we had started writing some songs, or maybe a couple years even before that, we had started writing some songs and had the Crackpot idea, or it was really my initiative to have a motivation to just put out 7 inches. I thought that was the attainable goal, and we'll just write maybe 4 songs at a time to, record all of them and slap them on a 7-inch, and then can do that every few years if we want to, can record that fairly quickly and painlessly. And in the midst of when we were recording those songs with what were intended to be the 7-inch, we were also switching management. We had been with our manager for a long, long time, pretty much the extent of our career, and had just, our time had just come to an end together somewhat amicably. And when we were talking to other people who were potential managers, we spoke with Tim, who is now our current manager. And I was explaining, as I was to all these candidates, what our plan was with the 7-inch series. And he listened, and I could tell he was, had his own ideas. And I was curious what he thought. And he said, I think if you want to make 7 inches, you should do that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I think that you should. But honestly, if you want someone like me to be able to deliver your music to people in a way that they're going to pay more attention to it, I think you should make a full length. And I was really opposed to it for a long time, mainly because I was just getting let down by the material that I was hearing from our colleagues that we came up with that were trying to get back together and put records out. I won't name names, but a lot of them really fell short for me, and it deterred me from wanting to throw my hat into the ring because I didn't want to have an effort of diminished returns after all this time. And I expressed that to Tim, and he listened to me, and he just said in one sentence, a very short sentence, he says, "I think that's just insecurity, man." And that one sentence like switched everything, like every philosophy that I had in my brain about making a full length. And he really did like a pretty brilliant reverse psychology on me, where I was instantly like, I'm not fucking insecure. I'm so good at this. I'm so secure in how I make music. I know I can make my best record. I'm going to show you, man. And he's just like, okay, dude. I was like, we got to get this guy to manage us so I can show him how good of a record we can make. And that was that, like ever since then, he was 100% right. It was my insecurity talking. And it was also a great example of why he was great fit to manage our band, because it was that kind of communication that was lacking and that kind of bedside manner to be able to motivate me into doing something that is the right course of action and is the right way for us to showcase ourselves as a band and how far we've come. So I'm glad that he changed my mind.
Nice. Which Tim is it?
Tim Kirch.
Okay, I was wondering if it was a different Tim who I sort of know that's a manager, but no.
Is it Tim Z? Is that who you're thinking of?
Yeah, Tim Z. Yeah, because
Yeah.
Tim Z used to, he managed Circa. I know he helped out This Day Forward with their reunion stuff, and I almost started a band with his brother a long time ago.
Yeah, I know Tim very well, fairly well, and I know of the bands that he's been in. I was friends with other guys in One Dead, Three Wounded, and yeah, I'm really good friends with a lot of the bands that he manages, and we did meet with him as well. Like we kind of consider him like one of the ones that got away, even though we really are in the right place. That was the toughest call. It was a battle between the Tims.
How do you find your manager? Do you just know different people from working in the business and you pick who you think is the best fit?
Yeah, I had become aware of him through Matt Watts in our band. Matt Watts is very well connected, used to manage bands. He worked at Fender for a long time. So he has a pretty extensive Rolodex of people in the music industry. And he's sort of the built-in manager of the band, of the members, of the playing members. He is the most managerial mind of all of us. And so he had recommended Tim, and we had already noticed the Maine, and Tim is older brother of Pat, the drummer of the Maine. And we had been noticing for a long time that band has been really dictating their own path and doing things in a DIY manner that is in an arena that we're not used to seeing DIY mentality. I see a lot of it in like the grittier punk rock scene, but they've managed to do it on an elevated level, creating their own festivals, putting out records themselves. And when I talked to Tim about that in that first meeting, he had this air about him that it's, I was like, how do you do that? That just seems so monumental to have to take on that. And he just says, it's kind of really easy. He just had this very straightforward way of thinking. We have this goal and we just in increments just work our way towards it. And that's all it is. And it's almost simpler because we take this sort of music industry side of it out of it. And it's really just a very cool, contained collective where we get to make decisions all in a very minimal chain of command. And it's been very pleasant.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, last time you were on the show, you were talking about an experience you had with a music executive, the guy over at Geffen, and, not a great experience, but ultimately you were okay with him because he let you guys out of Geffen and you could leave. And, I'm sure there was a lot of meetings like that and different experiences with big record labels back in the day. Do you ever have to deal with anything like that anymore? I mean, the landscape of everything has changed so much since 2007. Like, do you ever have to deal with anything or anybody like that anymore?
So rarely. And I do avoid it at all cost. And by design, I think we've been able to avoid it more and more because now without even having a label, the only contract that we have had to sign has been with a distributor. And I think it was about 5 pages long. It was very easy to digest. And the way that the arithmetic is working out is definitely in our favor. And it doesn't seem like there's a real drop in quality as far as getting the message that we have music out to people. I don't see any real deficit or difference between the delivery system of the labels that we've been on and the delivery system of doing it ourselves with Tim and the whole gang.
Yeah. Eternal Youth is the new Starting Line record. It's going to be out September 26th. Is that record label yours, the band's that it's coming out on?
Yeah, Lineage Recordings. That's going to be our imprint that we'll be releasing music on for the foreseeable future.
Nice. And is it hard to set that up? Like what do you do? Who do you ask about that? I wouldn't even know what to do.
Yeah, I know. And Tim made it very simple for us. All I asked was Tim. Tim just basically asked what we wanted to name it, and that was as simple as that. And yeah, what we wanted the logo to look like. And then we just had to decide a distributor. The record making process is pretty much just farm to table. And literally our managers will be sending out the boxes of records to the stores themselves, and It's just 1-to-1.
Nice. So I guess there's no more producers telling you that you should sound like this or change that, unless maybe it's someone in the actual studio you're working with.
Yeah. I mean, Will Yip did the record, he produced it, and that was, I think, a concern for the rest of my band going into it. Some of the guys weren't sure how intense he was going to be with the pre-production phase of it, because everything we've done with him before have either been live sessions or intended for a 7-inch, just sort of quickly done. And I let Will know that. I said, they want a pre-pro and they want the whole pre-pro kind of song and dance, which I love. I think that that's an important step in the process of making a record. We've just never done it with Will before, and they were unsure of how much he was willing to get under the hoods with the songs. And he was, and everything that he did suggest, for the most part, was very helpful and definitely productive for the songwriting and the play of the record. And it was all basically get to the good stuff quicker. Take out a little bit of the fat here, double this part because it's very good. It was all just very simple stuff like that. It wasn't grandiose, let's try a completely different drum beat kind of stuff. And if he wasn't feeling something, it was always easy to tell. Because he's very enthusiastic, but when he's not feeling something, he's not able to fake that.
Was there ever a time where he wanted you to change something or try something else and you just didn't want to do it? Like that'll happen to me in band practice. Sometimes someone will be like, let's try this. And I'll be like, I don't want to. But then 2 weeks later, I'll be like, wait, you're right. Like, have you ever just not wanted to do something?
Yes. And there's maybe a couple of times when I did put my foot down completely. I can't remember exactly what. I don't think that they were terribly important things for either of us. But one that I do remember is there's a song that's on the record that is 2 songs put together. It's actually 2 songs, but it lives on the same track, and they're backed up against each other. And it was intended to be one track after the other, just gapless, and still just name the 2 songs separately, and they're both 2 minutes apiece. And his thought was, I like both of these, but I think that it should be its own track. I think that it's more special when you hear the transition and the 2 things together. He didn't think it was going to be as special breaking it up between the 2. And the more I thought about it, the more I agreed with him. And now I couldn't picture it any other way. So it's good for him to break us out of our train of thought.
When you and the band started writing, how did you feel about the music? Did you feel insecure about it, or did you feel like maybe it wasn't living up to whatever legacy you were imagining?
No, it felt really good right away. It felt like the songs kept getting better as they got written. So the first one that we even wrote for the entire pool of songs didn't make the record, and it was going to make that first 7-inch that we were concocting. And now, through I think just the process of getting back to it and getting familiar with songwriting again in the style, just, I don't know, it feels better than ever. Because on Direction, I think it got as close to what we know as the starting line now, as far as our identity. Like, if we have like an identity of sound, I feel like prior to this record, it was Direction, because it brought together everything that we were attempting to do in the most successful way to date. And now it's not about just returning to form and trying to recreate a magic that we had in the first 3 records. It's very much a mentality of what would it sound like continued, and where do we go from there? Not forgetting what we've done, not trying to make a completely reinvented sound. It's just like, what is the next step? Like, what is further down that road from Direction? And I think that's what we did. Now it's really exciting, because now I can think about our career in terms of an entirely new era where we have this very clear hindsight of, okay, this is what's very special about our situation as a band, and this is what's special about this time period that we had from 2000 until 2007. And now here we are again, where we still have all our faculties and we have even more experience under our belt. And I think that we were able to focus in a way that we could make a record that had the essence of what we were trying to do right from the get-go, but now with the experience and the maneuverability to execute in a new articulate way.
Yeah, I think it has to be the perfect blend of staying true to yourselves and the fan base, mixed with who you are now, mixed with where your influences lie now, right? It's like the balance of all those things. You don't want it to sound like a tribute to the first record or the demo. You don't want to become a completely new folk band, right? It's got to be like, what is the starting line and where are we now and where did those two lines meet?
Absolutely. Yeah, influences was a big thing. We really try to tap in with the bands that got us excited about getting together in the first place. You know, like bands like Lifetime and Get Up Kids, like we put together a collaborative playlist where we were just throwing on tracks that we thought would get the juices flowing and the engine running for the momentum of writing these songs. And yeah, it was a lot of like, I would throw one in and then, you know, Gala would throw one in that I just hadn't heard in a long time, you know, like Sam I Am or something like that. And it was a great way to like be like, yeah, I remember this song. Just like remember getting like picked up in their cars and then putting that stuff on from their CD book. It was a good like jolt of nostalgia without it being like, let's try to write songs like these. It was more just like, let's get the spirit of why this was exciting for us to start this band in the first place. And that went a long way for us. And I think it helped us really identify what it is about our sound that we like and what we'd like to bring into the current writing process.
I like that. Getting back to the roots. That's good. I've done that a lot, especially over the past 5 years. There was the pandemic, and then I discovered YouTube and content creators, and I would go into wormholes and just find old bands that I listened to. And now playing in a band again, I'm trying to do less internet, more music. I miss what you're talking about. Like you're in a car, you pick up your friend. Hey, this record, we're driving, we're listening to it, we're forming new experiences around that record. Like I want to get back to that.
Yeah, it's a great bonding touchstone for us to be able to put on music that we all know we like, and especially the, oh, I haven't heard this in so long factor is a nice thing and a nice jolt of memory to get some smelling salts into the excitement of writing some music.
Nice. How is your voice doing? I remember you said it was a struggle sometimes with the starting line and, you know, moving into and with personnel too. And you were hoping Vacationer would be like kind of the retirement plan. Do you have to like retrain yourself? Do you have to get back to a certain point? Like, what do you do?
There is a lot of preparation that goes into it these days. I have gotten a lot better. I'd say that my stamina has really improved. I think better than ever. And I attribute that to breathing. I knew the essence of how to breathe correctly. I took some singing lessons back in maybe 2001 or 2, just because I was having a lot of losing my voice issues. So I had gotten the basics of correct breathing back then. And I think I'd just fallen into bad habits. Another thing that I think I was victim of was trying to sound tougher than I was. I would notice that as I was playing these shows with other bands who maybe were more aggressive or something, I was trying to put on more of a gravelly thing in my voice at these shows, and then I would just end up not having a voice the next day or not having a falsetto the next day. And now all I think about when I'm singing, for the most part, when I'm trying to regulate myself, is just being loose, relaxed, and open. And those things, the open thing is the biggest. Just as long as like I feel like I'm giving all of my breath in the right way and it's not getting choked up right in here, then that seems to be the ticket for me. Also getting lots of sleep and drinking enough water and all that good stuff. Also tea I think is bullshit. I gave up tea and I'm just a Halls man now. So Halls, menthol, not sugar free. Don't want aspartame, but the just straight up Halls menthol, that's that good shit. And one other thing from my regiment that really helped me is there is an app called, what is it called? It's called Vocal Coach. And it's designed by this woman, Liz Kaplan, who there was this guy. It's going to get a little embarrassing for a second, but we were watching The Voice for a season. Just to, I don't know. You know, it's nice. Like sometimes the singers in the beginning are really nice. And we had made our way through the season. And at the end, there's this guy, Ben Platt, who came out. Are you familiar with this guy? He's sort of a Broadway guy.
No.
Okay, so he's like like he was like in Dear Evan Hansen. I had no clue who he was. Could care less about Broadway or that kind of thing. But he was coming out because he had like a solo record, and he sang this song called "I Can't Imagine," and there's this like falsetto, like mixed voice note that he hits in it that blew my mind how powerfully he was hitting it during this performance. And I would like put the song on in my car and try to hit it and like straight up couldn't. And I was like humiliated. And so I found out who his vocal coach was, and it's Liz Kaplan, and I got that app. And then ever since I've been drilling those exercises and warm-ups over and over again. And it's a lot of like, you know your body and get your body loose. And there's even stretching exercises in it. I pretty much just do the warm-ups, but it's really made a huge difference on me. So shout out Liz Kaplan.
Nice. What's the app again?
It's called Vocal Coach.
I'm going to try that. I see I've got some throat coat tea right here, which I don't know if it's helping or not, but I have the lozenges too, because I play guitar and yell in a band. So it's a constant struggle of trying not to do too much, pulling back, eating lozenges, trying to get through the set, doing all the warm-up stuff. It's like, it's a constant battle.
Yeah. Martin from Boys Like Girls was like, he pulled up as I was exiting When We Were Young in like a full, what is it called? Like a reflector bodysuit on a bike with a flashing light that like a cop would have. I just see like a flashing light coming at me. And then this guy just like skirts up to me on a bike and he goes, "Bro, do you have any Sing Friend?" And I'm like, what is that? He's like, the spray stuff. I'm like, no. He's like, man, we were supposed to get a shipment of it. We don't have it. I was like, no, man, I got a Halls. I think I passed him a Halls, but yeah, it was like, and then Tim from Under Oath happened to just be like outside his bus, and he comes up to me and he goes, "Who was that absolute psychopath?" I love Martin, by the way, but yeah, he was, he's a character, that guy.
Good times. How was playing that fest? That was a huge fest.
Always fun. Yeah, we were doing the hat trick. We got our third year coming up this one, and always really fun. I feel like they know how to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Eternal Youth is the new LP from the Starting Line. How does it feel? This is the first LP in 18 years since 2007, right? I mean, like, is it mind-blowing for you to be writing this? Does it kick up a lot of stuff? Like, how is it for you and the rest of the guys?
It's great. It comes together a lot quicker than trying to write Vacationer music. Vacationer music is very layered, and is, it has a very like time-intensive writing process for me, as well as like rehearsals and stuff like that. So getting to do something that is just a lot more kind of barbaric as far as music making goes has been a really nice like reprieve for my brain in terms of songwriting. There's not as much like, I don't have to think like, what's the third harmony going to be on this all the time. Like sometimes it can just be a single vocal, and sometimes that really rocks. And yeah, a lot of the approach to this record was absolutely no effects at all. I just wanted it to sound like the same way they recorded Jersey's Best Dancers, like just two guitar amps, turn them up loud. I mean, we do have keys, but those were just Wurlitzer and Rhodes, so even those are like analog instruments. So there's not really any like synthesis on this record. There's no delays on this record. Everything is very natural because I wanted it all to rest on the songwriting, and I just want it to be a pure form of expression from this band without having to lean on any sort of trickery or gimmickry. That's really the biggest thing. It's just like a revolt against gimmickry.
I like the sound of that a lot. I think a lot of bands in our world of music make that mistake, and they go off into noodly effect land, and it just loses me. It's like, give me the riff, man. Give me the song. Give me the chorus.
Brother, it's funny. I hear dudes like Dave Grohl go on like interviews and be like, oh, I just love just raw punk rock recordings. And then he'll put out like a record that is trying to sound like the Bee Gees. It's like, where is where's the practicing what you preach? Like, I feel like so many bands try to posture this like super punk aesthetic, but no one will do that. Everyone takes it a step too far where like, there's got to be some loud ass tambourine or something. I don't know. I mean, maybe we have tambourine, but maybe it's just not too loud for me or something. But yeah, like I didn't want to overcook it because I hear so many records these days that just sound so overcooked to me. And I think so much to the point that like people will make comments about our records and say shit like that the vocals aren't loud enough, where it's just like, I think there's just an epidemic of too loud vocals out there.
Yeah. Is there a central theme to the new record? Do you typically do like a theme overall for a record, or is it just kind of a song by song basis?
I never really do themes for the record. It's more like it ends up having a quality about the subject matter where it's always, I'd say, just sort of a page out of the journaling of my mind and whatever is occupying my mind at the time that needs working out. And a lot of it is, because you have to reckon with, to be a punk rock band, I think there's an expectation for there to be like a commentary on something that's a little bit, I don't know, like something that exists above a social nature or something that is going to inspire change. And, for a brief period in time, I thought maybe I could do that in a political way. And then very quickly, once I tried to enact that kind of thing in lyrics, I'm just like, I'm not putting this eloquently to like have to like try to attempt to encapsulate how I feel about social political matters in my lyrics. It just ends up sounding dumb or preachy or something like that, and I'm not getting my point across in the way that I even feel. So what I try to do is get to the heart of how I feel about being human and the human experience. And also that goes with the raw thing too. I want this to sound like a human record. I want like AI would never have a chance of doing this because there's just nothing phony or synthetic about it. Like, this is actual raw human expression. And I try to take that in the sense of the subject matter into just what I would like out of myself and humanity as far as improvement goes. And, just in a strictly philosophical and idealistic kind of way, I just talk about how I'd like to better myself and what the meaning of my motivation is for life, and try to speak about it in a way that is going to remind me how to get better and what the core meaningful things are to me in this existence.
I like that. Yes, that is the way. And you just reminded me of something I wanted to say earlier. Like, I think that's what it has to be. I think the advice to come back and put out a full LP was great because I think that's what it has to be. Because it's the new record. It's the sum of everyone's experiences. It's that moment in time. It's everything you're going through. It's a long time since we've had a new Starting Line record again. It's more exciting if we're coming back with a record, right? Rather than maybe just leaking out some singles here and there. It's just like, and this is just my opinion, it's just such a better story to be like, here is this thing, the sum of all things, and it's here after all this time.
Totally, man. It feels right. It feels like we're coming into our own, and it feels like we're sort of in the prime of our lives as far as the music goes. And the eternal youth part of the theme, I guess, is when we talk about it and what the record is about, we try to talk about eternal youth in a way that is not childish but just timeless. Like, it's not about acting like you did when you're a kid. It's about having youthful exuberance in the same way that you did when you're a kid. It's not about immaturity, and it's also not about nostalgia. It's about just harnessing that spark of what made this special in the first place.
Right. I'm with you on all that. So Vacationer. Now, you mentioned earlier that the Vacationer songwriting process is a lot more detailed. I was curious about this. I'm sure it starts with you, right? Like, you're piecing together elements, but how does it work with the band? I mean, do you come to them with a whole song and then they have to learn parts, or do you work with them on songs together? How does the songwriting process work in Vacationer?
Yeah, definitely. There is a lot of me tinkering up here and experimenting, which is, I'd say, one of the most fun parts about the process, just like sifting through records and just trying to find weird textures and loops and then going from there, like just letting that dictate where a song will go and then building it out, trying to have some restraint. And everything up here, just lends itself so well to psychedelic, I don't even know what to call it, sample-based sort of experimentation. And then, yeah, since we've sort of put together the MIDI drum setup, I've been doing a lot more writing with Ryan. Ryan, the drummer, is sort of my main partner in crime in Vacationer. And that's great because then I can chop up a record, have it on the sampler right here, and then have him on the kit, which is also just triggering MIDI. But it's great because we're triggering MIDI, but we can have it with human feel. We don't have to quantize it all. We don't even have to put a click on if we don't want. And that really gets some really great results.
Nice. You have a set band with Vacationer, right? You've been with them for a while?
Yeah, the guys have been playing with me, I'd say, for over 10 years.
And do you bring them parts? Like, will you say, like, you're going to play this on guitar or learn this? Or do they help out with the songwriting process at all? How does that work?
They do. It sort of goes... Greg will, I'd say, maybe a quarter of half of the guitar parts he'll write and record, and then the other time I'm up here and I get ahead of myself and I'll be recording the guitar already. But then more times than not, once it goes to Greg, he makes it something much more elaborate and beautiful than I would be able to come up with. And then the vibraphone parts I do usually end up writing because I really enjoy it. It's having a vibraphone around, you really get to know the feel for how the thing bounces off it and how the mallets fall, and the touch of a vibraphone is something that's really addictive.
Is there ever any bumps in the road with writing? Because, being in a band, sometimes I'll want to be like, hey, could you play like this, and maybe they won't want to, or someone might tell me, hey, could you do this, and maybe I won't want to. Like, is there ever stuff like that in the creative process?
Definitely. It's mostly in the rehearsal process because I just sort of build this really delicate house of cards that hinges a lot on harmonies and very complicated trying to play this while you're playing another thing type situations. So it's just very labor intensive as far as the rehearsing goes for that stuff. And I can be a little bit of a drill sergeant when I'm trying to get way more chill about, especially being in such a chill band. But yeah, with with like you know, the difficulty level being so high with some of the arrangements, it's it's a corner I've painted myself into occasionally.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of elements in there, I'm sure. So if you have to like change one thing, you probably have to change a lot of things.
Yeah, and also if one piece is getting, you know, out of kink with the machine, then it all starts to wobble very quickly. You know, with punk rock, it's easy to sort of, if you miss something, you can pick yourself up and just tumble back into the song. But when there's so much like hinging on staying on the loop, it can be nerve wracking. It's like when I saw Battles once, and I used to think that band was like more than human because they were just so good at looping. And then once I saw them get off the loop, I was like, oh, thank God, these guys are human too.
With bands like Vacationer, you know, where they're sampling and we're pulling from different things and manipulating, here's a question. Do you like to not talk about where things come from and what you do to them? Because sometimes I'll see a random reel on Instagram and they're like, hey, they pulled this clip from a movie and reversed it and doubled it here. And I'm like, wow, that's like kind of crazy. Do you not like to talk about where things come from, or do you not care? Like, what's your stance on that?
I guess it depends, because it's a gray area with sampling. Like, I would love to be fully transparent about everything that I may or may not have sampled. I guess I'll say legally. You know, that's the thing about it. It's sort of like, it's like graffiti in a way. It's like you're kind of not supposed to be doing it, but it is a beautiful art form that is valid. And I mean, I love sample-based music, I think, next to some of my favorite music. So it's something that ever since I had realized that this record I loved or that record I love is just a sample of just a, you know, 2-bar loop a lot of the time, that really broke my mind open into what is actually possible. It's like, oh yeah, that is also a valid form of music making, even though to some people it might be dismissed rather quickly. To me, it just opened up a whole new world of rule breaking, which feels sort of punk rock in itself. I think that's what attracted me to sample based music and record digging, all that stuff. It just felt like trespassing in a way. And I try to, now that I'm getting older, I still sample the hell out of records, but I release much less sample based music. I do it a lot more just for my own enjoyment or for, you know, like live scenarios. But when I do sample music, I try to be like ethical about it, if that makes sense. Like I had this weird thing where I kind of had this epiphany, like, oh yeah, like I'm just sampling like soul music for this period of time. And like, yeah, it's like, of course it's going to sound good because all these guys are like soul musicians. And it's like, I don't really have claim to this music as like just a fucking white boy in the suburbs. Like, I'll just say it, you know? So I've tried to be more mindful of like, when I do sample stuff, I try to sample like Italian soundtrack records because like I'm an Italian guy and like these are in some ways like my ancestors doing, you know, these things which are like super fire samples. And then I feel like it's not as much appropriation for me if I'm going in and chopping up those records and I can make something that sounds soulful out of something like that. Just, you know, if you're just chopping up a straight up fire soul or jazz record from the 70s, it's a bit of cheating in a way because it's already baked in so good. So if you can make something out of, you know, nothing in the sense that it was just like a B movie, like softcore porn, like a Italio soundtrack, like I think that's a little bit more of like a rewarding challenge.
Yeah, I do think it's an interesting art form, and I was curious about your thoughts because it is a gray area. Like technically, like let's say a song really takes off and starts making money, then maybe someone's going to pull it apart and say like, hey, that's mine. I want you to pay me, right?
Yeah, sample snitching is like, especially with AI, it's like I don't think anyone's going to really get away with anything anymore. So you got to pick your battles with that stuff.
Yeah, I was also curious because I did a remix before, but I didn't have Ableton or Focusrite or any instruments, so I just pulled stuff and then sped it up or slowed it down and put in all the elements. And then when I was doing the YouTube video, I went to type out like exactly what I did, and I was like, wait, I don't want to do this because someone's just going to be like, oh, you did that. It sucks. So I just said like remix and that's it.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the electronic music way.
Right.
You don't want to show your cards too much.
Exactly. There's got to be some mystique to it, I think. So I was curious about your thoughts. Well, Vacationer put out an excellent LP in 2023, Cherish. That was mostly dedicated to your mom, right? Who passed in 2021.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Not a lot of people talk about this record, but it's one that I'm really proud of.
Yeah, I love it. How are you doing? How is your family doing? I remember seeing when you posted about that a while ago.
Thanks, man. That's very sweet of you to ask. Miss her very much. We're naming our daughter. Her middle name will be the same middle name as my mom. She lives in infamy. She had such a huge presence, and I think so much of her personality in me that a lot of the times these days it doesn't even really feel like she's gone. And the way that we talk about her like she's still here because she is in a lot of ways. But like only anyone that has lost a parent will know, it's a void that is impossible to fill. And love her so much, and I'm very satisfied that I could bookmark that point in my life and exactly what I was feeling in those moments in a respectable way that I can stand by today with that record. I think that it was a nice way to honor my mom, and also a really good therapy for me to focus my mind on something that wasn't grief, or wasn't strictly grief. It was a productive grief, if nothing else.
That's great. Yeah, it must have been a bittersweet experience, huh?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like the completion of that record was very cathartic, and a way to honor my mom in a fashion that I know she would be really proud of, because I think that Vacationer, of all my projects, she had been the most supportive and connected with the most genuinely. So I always have a soft spot for thinking of her and her feedback with the music.
Nice. Did she specifically listen to it and say, "Oh, I like this one the best"? Because my bands have always been very hit or miss with my parents, but there's always like one that they like.
Yeah, I think just the style of it. As soon as I showed her the first 4 songs that I'd recorded for Vacationer, she was flipping her lid about it. And she'd always been very supportive of Starting Line and everything else that I've done. But I think based on what she was listening to, which was like Fine Young Cannibals and Emmylou Harris, stuff like that, In Excess, like I think there was some more kind of pop new wave records that my mom was hip to versus my dad, who was more of just a straight up rock and roll guy for the most part. I think there was something that struck a nerve with her with the sound of Vacationer, and she was always very supportive.
Nice. Well, I hope you're doing all right. I hope your family's doing all right. And yeah, it's a great LP. So listen, everybody, if you haven't heard it, check it out. Do it.
Please. There's a few records left. Shout out to Paxco Records. They're one of the best in the biz.
When you write and record Vacationer music, do you record it or do you demo it and then go record it somewhere else? How does that work?
I've recorded the last 2 records. So I've recorded Cherish and I've recorded Wavelengths. And before that, I did the Mindset record with Daniel Schlett, who had done a lot of the early Dive records. He had done this Ghostface record that I really loved. That was the clincher for me making that record with him, because he made this Ghostface record that was really wonderful and was all live instruments, but had a really cool sampled sound about it. And when I was describing to him the type of record I wanted to make, he was just like, oh yeah, you just want to use the studio as an MPC. I was like, this guy gets it. And yeah, made Mindset at Strange Weather, which closed their doors, but was fantastic. And then the 2 records before that, Relief and Gone, were made in Brooklyn with the guys from Body Language, who were sort of my mentors, I consider them, and the original producers of Vacationer. And I credit a lot of the sounds to those guys because they were the ones that showed me how to sample, what sampled music was all about, and really allowed me to take the baton and run with it.
Oh yeah, I remember that story from when you got set up with them to, and they showed you sampling, and that's where the whole thing started.
Yeah, I just saw Grant from Body Language a few weeks ago. He's like renovating a house in Williamsburg, and he's got like a 1.5-year-old daughter too. So it's great being able to talk to him and get the lowdown. It's great talking to new dads like that have like a year and change under the belt because they are fresh in the memory of everything. So I get the key intel.
You can get the firsthand experience. Like, all right, do this, don't do that. Worry about this, don't worry about that. There you go.
Yeah. You do need to get one of these. Don't worry about this. Like, yeah, it's clutch.
Do you still bounce Vacationer stuff off them? Do you seek input from others? Because a lot of it does start with you.
Yeah, I do. I mean, since I've moved away from working with them directly, it's a little bit of a sensitive thing because I don't want to be like, hey, here's the thing that I worked on without you. But I also do really value their opinion. Especially Grant. Grant is, I mean, of the two, Grant and I have like the best current relationship, and I always really trust his ear with everything. And he's just got such a fantastic sense of sonic field and really has a talent for mixing. So I know if he can get behind something, then it's truly worth listening to.
I read an interesting story in an old interview with you. You met with Blink-182 at the house while they were recording the self-titled record. Is that true?
That is true. Yeah.
How does that get set up? Like, how does that happen?
I really don't even know. Like, I think that it was somehow the drive-through records got us visitation to the session. But even still, I can't imagine in Blink-182's position being like, yeah, let's have these kids over that I've never met before. Like, I'm sure they were vaguely aware of us because we were on an Atticus comp, but I think that was the most connection that we had to Blink-182. But we gained access to go visit them. It was just, there was no Travis. It was only Mark and Tom. And I also don't think Jerry Finn was in that day because I don't remember meeting him. But they said, yeah, come in. They said, you don't have SARS, do you? Because, like, as they opened because that was, like, what was happening at the time. So, got a little joke in there right away. We were like, that's Blink. Just goofy guys. And then I don't know if everyone knows this, but they're both very tall. I don't know if this is public knowledge, but both singers of Blink-182 are extremely tall. Google it. And in person, they seem even taller. And then Tom, the first thing he said was, "Who smokes weed?" And I could have just like passed out from excitement at that point. Me and Tom were just like clutching each other like, this is it, man. And then Tom took us into the garage and smoked weed with us and talked about The Cure. And then they pulled us into the control room and played us Feeling This. And it was a trip, man. Like, I can't imagine doing that for some band, just off the street. That was extremely cool of them. And I've seen, like Mark in like passing in a hallway, like Mark Hoppus. And there's, he definitely does not remember who I am. But for me, we're forever just like that because of that one.
I like that. Yeah, that record, I still listen to that record. And that was a big deal when it came out. I remember some people were like, it was divisive for some people because some some people were upset that they were trying to be serious, and other people were like, "Oh, the band who makes dick jokes is trying to be serious now." But that's a great record. There's a lot of really good songs on that. That's a classic.
Oh yeah, Violence kills.
Oh God, yeah. And really there's one I'm not going to remember the name. It's a Mark song towards the end. I can't remember it, but it's really good.
Yeah. Also, I did an emo night DJ set recently, and Always from that record is like such a sleeper for like Blink 182 hits. Like it's a hit, but it should be like their biggest song. It's so good.
Yeah, it's classic. And the Cure guest spot. I mean, how are you going to beat that?
Pretty damn cool. It's hard to beat it.
So let's talk about what we've got coming up. We know there is a Starting Line tour kicking off this week, right?
Yes. I just have a few days here. I'll be out of here on Thursday.
How much rehearsing do you do?
A ton by myself, and one day all of us together.
There's only going to be one day everyone together?
Yeah. Our motto is we don't like to be over-rehearsed.
I like that.
Yeah. And so we'll never be accused of being over-rehearsed. Yeah. We've also been playing quite a bit recently, more regularly than we're used to. So we can trust ourselves to do the homework and then come in, and it's never a lot of head scratching with us. If it is, there's so many songs that we can just swap one out if one isn't hitting at that moment. We can put it on the back burner, work on it at sound check if we want to put it back in the rotation. But there's so many that we can just swap out parts that if something feels funny during that one rehearsal, we'll just cut the fat and make a better set.
Does that happen sometimes? Like, this isn't working right now. Let's wait.
For sure. We usually know which ones they are, though.
Yeah.
And it's never any of the really important ones. If it's a really important song, we'll drill it and we'll take it to the woodshed long enough to work out the kinks, and then it's just old hat. But yeah, especially with the new record in the mix now too, it's going to make it a lot easier to freshen up the set list, which I'm really excited about.
Nice. Yeah. Do you ever do any big surprises in your set lists? Like, will you ever go far back or just like mix in some things that you've never played or rarely played? Like how experimental does it get?
We're trying to, as far as songs, deep cuts from records, like Based on a True Story is turning 20 this year, or has turned 20 this year. So it forced us to take a good look at the deep cuts on those ones. And if we're ever going to take out some unusual suspects, then this is a good time to do it.
So what's going on with Vacationer? Is there anything we can talk about or announce, or any information we can give to the people?
It's not over. I have a song actively in the works. But there's been quite a bit of busy work as far as getting the Starting Line record together. So it's hard for me to break my brain out of one project and then sort of simultaneously be working on another one. I'm not a great multitasker in that sense. So once this one's out there, I feel like I'll be able to get that song done, which is one of my favorite Vacationer songs. And I'm writing it with another guy that he's in a band that I was a big fan of and put out a record. I guess I can just say, I mean, it's not out yet. So, and I haven't like given him updates in a while. So I feel like I hope he hasn't given up hope on me. But I wrote it with this guy, Charlie Brand, who is in Miniature Tigers. And I just want to shout him out, if for nothing else, for people to check out this record he made called Monsoons. And it's just called Charlie Brand Monsoons. And honestly, it was probably the most influential record on the Cherish album. It's just like this kind of Beach Boysy, like, California Valley folk sounding record with a lot of psychedelia in it. But oh man, this record is just perfect in so many ways. Just track after track after track. Lines are just bars on bars. Like he just has these really quippy lines that just make me like embarrassed of my own writing style because they're just so witty. And yeah, like a lot of this session with writing with him was asking him about this Monsoons record, which I had assumed he had made over the course of like 4 years. And I was like, what, like, how did you record that? He was like, oh yeah, I think it took me like 3 weeks. Yeah. That's the most insane part of it is I really thought that it was this opus he was working on like his whole life. And he just told me he just made it in a few weeks because he wanted to just do something that felt like he was making it on a 4-track. He didn't want to like stop and think about what he was doing. So he just purposefully made it very quickly and says for the most part, he doesn't even remember making it.
Wow.
Yeah, and he never toured on it. I don't hear it talked about a lot. And my wife, Lena, was actually the one that showed it to me when I was visiting her in Austin. She put on this song, Malibu Yurt, which is just this fucking sweet pop song. And that was that. There's this other song called Baby Blue Motorcycle where I some of the lines I couldn't understand. And then I asked him what the lines were. And it's just like so much cooler than I even thought they were going to be. So shout out to Charlie Brand. That guy is just fucking so talented as a songwriter.
Nice. I got to check that out. Isn't it awesome, but also frustrating? It's like, yeah, I just put that together in 3 weeks. It's like, man.
I mean, my shit is painstakingly long. I mean, I adopted the I don't want to call it a routine, but like this method where I just try to write a song a month when I'm in like a writing process. That's what I did for Cherish. Is just like, I just have to get a song done this month. And that just means like something with vocals where it just feels like a complete song. It doesn't have to be top to bottom finished recording, but it feels like I have a song in there. And so that's a victory for me. If I can get 1-2 a month is amazing, but a whole record in the course of a few weeks, especially to that extent and that flawless a victory, it's unbelievable.
Well, Kenny, it's great to have you back on the show. I can't wait to hear the rest of Eternal Youth. I can't wait for everybody else to hear it. I wish you all the best, and thank you for coming back on the show.
Keith, thank you so much. Before I get out of here, I want to thank you for your service. There's not a lot of podcasts that I've kept up with, but yours has been one of them, and I listened to a great deal of them. You know, your interview, you had Kurt Ballou, right?
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. You're getting the people on here that I really want to hear from, and I'm so honored to be within that company. So thank you so much for what you do and having me a part of it.
Absolutely. That means a lot, and thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Kurt, for the Converge records.
Most listened to episode of The New Scene, Kurt Ballou. Shout out Kurt Ballou.
Oh, well deserved.
And there you have it. Ken Vasoli. Great conversation. Really glad that Ken came back on the show. He's just a solid dude to talk to. Super nice. I'm so happy that the Starting Line have released Eternal Youth. I just listened to it a couple days ago when we were driving up to Massachusetts to play a show, and it's a really good record. I really like their approach, going back to the basics, going back to the bands that inspired them to start the Starting Line in the first place, not getting lost in effects, no delay, no reverb on the record. Crazy. I love that. And you can really hear that on the record. It's just straight ahead, great melodic punk music, and I highly encourage you to check it out. It was also really good to get an update on Vacationer and hear about the making of Cherish. You know, Kenny just makes a lot of great music, and he's just an all-around great person to talk to. Thank you again, Kenny, for all the nice things you said about the podcast at the end of the conversation there. I always get caught off guard when people say nice things about me, but I do really appreciate that, and I'm happy that you still enjoy the show. That always catches me off guard when people who come on the show say they listen to the show, but it's great. I love that. So, awesome conversation. Thank you, Ken, for coming back on the show. So I want to tell you why I chose this conversation for the 300th episode of The New Scene. While I was researching this conversation with Ken, I went back and listened to our original conversation to get caught up, and I heard this clip. Check this out. This is from our 2020 interview with Ken Vasoli. Kenny, this is why we started this show, because as you know, we come from such a rich music scene. The amount of bands, the amount of people, the amount of great music that has come out of that area is just insane.
Yeah, I totally agree with you about the level of talent that coincidentally or maybe just environmentally happened around this area. It's cool, and it's pretty amazing to see the accomplishments of like the same people that I like played shows with at the skate park.
So I heard that and I was like, wow, yeah, that's how this show started. This show started from an idea I had to do a podcast. I heard another podcast that I liked, not in the world of music, and I was like, hey, that sounds like fun. We should try to do that. So Tommy, my former co-host, he was the person that I talked to the most at the time. We had very similar taste in music. Whenever I sent him songs, he would listen to them. He would comment on them. We went to shows together. He was the person I talked to the most consistently about music. And I know he loves to talk, so I knew he would be a great co-host for the podcast because, believe it or not, I am not a big-time talker. So the show originally started as a podcast called The Northeast Scene, and we just wanted to document our scene. We've talked about it a lot in the early days of the show, but we really had something special going on, like you heard me talk about in that clip earlier. The amount of bands that came from our area, the amount of bands we got to play in our area, all the venues, all the bookers, everything. It was just memories I look back on fondly all the time. And that was the basis of the show. Let's talk to our friends. Let's document everything. Let's talk about the times we had. So we recorded the first 4 episodes in February of 2020. I posted the first 4 episodes the first week of March. The pandemic had just kicked off. We were stuck inside, and I said, hey, let's try to take this show weekly. We'll do remote interviews. We'll post it every week. We've got time. We're stuck inside. Let's give it a shot. So we did that, and I started reaching out to people on Instagram. We got a lot of great guests in the first year. A lot of people said yes, Ken Vasoli included. But the original intent of the show was just a documentation of our local scene, talk to our friends, and then if we can get bigger people to come on who we don't know, that's just a bonus. And then I was thinking like we'll do a Where Are They Now thing, because I didn't know that the show was going to grow as much as it did and that we were going to keep getting bigger and bigger guests. So I wanted to do like a Where Are They Now type of thing. Like I tracked down Pete Appleby from Renee Hartfeld and Memorial. We got him on the show. There was a couple other bands that I didn't see any interviews out there from, and I made attempts to track them down. I was like, oh, maybe we can do like a Where Are They Now type of thing and track these bands down. But a little over a year into doing the show, Iodine Recordings got in touch with us, and they wanted to sign the podcast. And they did. And then we had the full resources of Iodine Recordings. We decided on a new name. I never liked the name The Northeast Scene. It was named The Northeast Scene because this whole thing started as an Instagram account, where I posted old show flyers and old show videos and old ticket stubs. And I said to Tommy, if we get this to 1,000 followers, we're doing a podcast. And he was like, all right. But I never liked the name The Northeast Scene for the podcast. It's confusing. People thought they had to be from the Northeast to be on the show, or the people thought they had to talk about the Northeast. So we pitched ideas and just settled on the name The New Scene. And we got a fresh look. We got a lot of help with booking as well. So the show took off from there, and it's been going strong ever since. Tommy was my co-host until episode 111. He left because the show was just taking more and more time, and he needed time to be with his family. And I would say the show has changed over the years. In the early days of the Northeast Scene, it was more like my friendship with Tommy and goofing around and radio bits and, kind of like a radio show, like a Howard Stern type community thing. And then once Tommy left, I had to figure out how to do it all by myself. And it was hard. It was really hard. I remember being really depressed the week he left, and I had to figure out how to do this by myself. I tried to do bits that we used to do, and it just wasn't the same. I had co-hosts for like a year and a half because I didn't want to do the show by myself, but eventually it just became too much work, and I was like, I just want to do the show myself and get it out there every week. And the show has changed since those early Northeast Scene days. I'd say it's probably a little more serious now. There is a big mental health, self-improvement slant because that's me. That's what I do. I mean, the show is an extension of me, and an extension of my interests, and an extension of who I am. But I hope everybody out there is enjoying it. Hello to all of our new listeners. Thank you so much to all the dedicated historical listeners who have stuck by us all this time. Thank you to Iodine Recordings and the team over there for all the support. Thank you, Madison, for making the graphics every week. Thank you to all the photographers who were kind enough to let us use their photos that you see on the podcast images every week. Thank you to all the great PR people who I talk to on a regular basis, who set me up with all the incredible guests who come on the show. Thank you. This show has given me everything that I'm happy about in my life right now. I mean, the podcast got me way back into music. The podcast hooked me up with Iodine Recordings. That got me in the Darling Fire. I was in that band for a year, and then that propelled me into Memory Entry, which I've been doing for the past few years on a serious basis. So my dreams have come true because of this show. I just always wanted to get back into music. I just wanted to be in a band I was really proud of. I wanted to be out there playing shows. I wanted to be part of it, not just an observer, but I wanted to be part of it once again. And I am. This show has given me everything. And I really just thank you so much to everybody who supports it. Here we are at 300 episodes. And speaking of, I will still be doing the show mostly full time. I am going to build in some time next year that I can take off a week here or there when I want to, when I need to. But the show will still mostly be here. So that's it. That is it for this week. I hope you have enjoyed this 300th episode of The New Scene. I'm back next week with a return guest you're definitely going to want to hear from, so I'll see you then.